This is the best of the Rocker Morning Show with Meatball and Mark.
Geezer, you're on with Mark and Meatball. Hello, Mark and Meatball.
Good morning, Geezer. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Oh, we appreciate your time with us today. Bass player for Black Sabbath. You helped start it all and finish the band strong. You've got a new book out now that we want to talk to, Into the Void, From Birth to Black Sabbath and Beyond. Well, Geezer, can you tell us a little bit about this book?
It's basically about just growing up in Aston. And how the band came together, and the various formations of the band, and family life, and up until now. And now I'm a granddad with 5 grandkids, so it goes from birth up until now that I'm a granddad.
Well, is this something that you've been thinking about doing for a while, or is this something that somebody encouraged you to do?
Well, yeah, because Ozzy and Tony have had their books out, and people always said to me, well, you're the lyric writer, why haven't you written a book? I didn't really have time before, and then in the pandemic, I had a whole year stuck at home. And initially, I thought I was just going to write a memoir so that my grandkids could read about my life, kind of thing, and their kids could read about it. And then my wife read what I'd written, and she said, "This is great. You should turn it into a book," which I did, and that's it.
I was going to ask, how was that process of writing it? Like, how long did it take you?
Altogether, probably a year and a half.
Okay.
Because once I sent the final manuscript in, then the editors take over and say, well, you can't say that, you can't do that, this has got to come out. So then you have to completely rewrite the whole thing. And then, so that's what takes all the time. Probably a year and a half, 2 years.
What kind of stories did they tell Geezer Butler that he can't do in his own book?
Probably mainly the business side of things.
That makes sense.
Unless you've got like lawyers' letters and things like that saying, well, this in your accountant says, yes, this happens. You can't say it in a book. So.
Oh, that's funny. Is there anything in this book you think even your biggest fans might be surprised to find out about you?
Probably the way we grew up and how we were all literally lived 2 streets away from each other, all in the same town, and all roughly the same age as each other, and all into the same music. So it's sort of like a miracle that we got together.
The overwhelming kind of consensus with Black Sabbath is that this band, you and Tony and Ozzy and Bill, created this one-of-a-kind sound that changed rock and roll forever. You created metal. If not for Sabbath in that time period, do you think that metal as we know it today would have even existed?
I think it was getting heavier, because you had Led Zeppelin. They were like the heaviest up until then.
Right.
And then there's Deep Purple. So I think eventually, they've just been heavier and heavier until you got heavy metal.
There's been a lot of bands, especially dating back and going into heavy metal scene in England, that you guys have stayed pretty tight-knit with over the years. There was a situation I know in the early 90s, but also one from one of the Black Sabbath shows in 2004, I think it was New Jersey, on Ozfest, where Ozzy came down with an illness, and you actually performed with Rob Halford from Judas Priest, who stepped in Ozzy's place. How was that dynamic playing those shows with him?
It was great, because we've known Rob's from the same area as the 4 of us. So, and Tony actually used to manage the first version of Judas Priest. So we all knew each other from like the early 70s, and Rob knew all the lyrics to the Sabbath stuff. And when Ozzy got ill, Judas Priest were on the same bill as us, and we sort of asked Rob if he wouldn't mind coming on and filling in for Ozzy. And he was a bit reluctant because in case he blew his voice out. But then he agreed, and it went great. I
was going to ask how the reception was from the audience, because they got to imagine that's like literally once in a lifetime experience.
Well, it started off not very well.
Really?
Everybody was expecting Ozzy.
Oh, no.
Expecting Ozzy, And then there's Rob Halford coming on. And then after the first song, everybody accepted us because they didn't know they didn't really know what was going on. Why is Rob Halford singing with Black Sabbath instead of Ozzy? And then I think he explained everything after the first song, and then the audience got it, and good gig after that.
That's good.
Well, Geezer, I know you're a sports fan too. You're a big fan of, is it Aston Villa? Are you a villain?
Yeah, Aston Villa.
Yeah. they're in the Premier League now in the UK. Were back in the day, were you ever part of like the hooligan groups with Aston Villa?
What, the hooligans?
Yeah.
No, I was too peaceful for all that.
But did you take? I mean, obviously you went to a few games back in the day, right?
Oh yeah, I used to go to every home match and a lot of the away matches as well. Yeah,
That's
it was literally just down the road from the actual football ground was about half a mile from where I lived.
That's
Oh
cool.
my gosh.
Easy to go down there and watch.
So you guys, I'm sure all four of you then probably went to several games all together, yeah?
Ozzy used to go, but Tony wasn't into football at all. Tony's not a sports person, so he didn't bother.
Well, I know you've been living in the U.S. some too, with shows like, Welcome to Wrexham and Ted Lasso in the U.S., soccer has seen this big rise in popularity, and I was curious if you've kind of seen that in Americans too.
Yeah, I watched the Welcome to Wrexham thing and Ted Lasso. Yeah, it's really funny. I mean, it's nothing like the reality, but it's funny.
Right.
Do you get over there to watch games every once in a while?
Well, the greatest thing about living in America is you can watch English football every week and every match.
Yeah.
So I haven't missed a match for the last 6 years.
Oh, that's great.
Well, the book is Into the Void, From Birth to Black Sabbath and Beyond, out now on all digital reading platforms and in bookstores. Geezer Butler, we greatly appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for your contributions to music as well. We greatly appreciate it.
And thank you for talking soccer with me. I appreciate that.
Okay, great.
All right, take care, Geezer.
You too, bye.
Live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 and on demand in the Rocker app. It's the best of the Rocker Morning Show on 107.7 RKR.